Before the first light breaks the horizon, before the noise of the world rises to demand your attention, there is a sacred stillness in the air. It is a stillness that holds the whisper of heaven, the unspoken instructions for the day ahead, the blueprint for victories you have not yet seen. In those quiet, untouched moments before sunrise, there is an open channel between earth and heaven, a window where the eternal leans closer to the temporal, ready to pour wisdom, direction, and peace into the heart of anyone willing to listen. Most people rush into their day without recognizing that God's first gift each morning is not the light of the sun. It is the light of His counsel, offered in the darkness before the day begins. When you rise before the world does, you are not just waking up early, you are stepping into the inner chamber of God's timing. In those early hours, the demands of life are still asleep. The phones are silent, the streets are empty, the minds of most are still resting. It is then that your spirit can breathe without interruption. You see, God often speaks in whispers, and whispers can only be heard when you are close enough to the source and quiet enough to receive. Many miss this divine transaction because they are too busy trying to catch up with the day rather than preparing to lead it. But the truth is, the day doesn't really begin when the clock says morning. It begins when you have received heaven's instructions for it. If you start without them, you may be busy but not fruitful. You may move but not progress. You may push doors but not see them open. There are certain moments in life when the positioning of your heart matters more than the position of your body. Waking before sunrise to pray is not simply about discipline or habit. It is about positioning yourself where heaven is already speaking. There are revelations God will not shout into the noise of midday. They are reserved for the ones who come to Him while the dew is still on the ground. Think about the morning as God's strategy session for your life. It is when He can show you where the opportunities are hidden, where the traps are set, and where the blessings are waiting. When you miss that session, you are stepping into the battlefield without a battle plan. Before sunrise, the atmosphere is not yet contaminated by the anxieties of the day. The world has not yet poured its demands into your heart. In that purity of time, your prayers rise like incense, untainted by frustration or fatigue. And it is not just that God hears you more clearly. It is that you hear Him more clearly. Because prayer is never only about speaking, it is about listening. Those who pray before the day begins often find themselves moving in the right direction without having to force things. They speak the right words without rehearsing them. They meet the right people without chasing them. They step into open doors without even knowing they were closed before. This is the fruit of divine instructions received in the hours before the light comes. If you think about it, creation itself began in darkness. The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the deep before the first day began. There was movement before light. There was order before visibility. This tells you something profound. The beginnings of your breakthroughs will not be visible at first. They will be conceived in the dark, in those quiet hours before the sunrise, in the moments where you choose to meet God before you meet the world. The seeds of victory are planted before the fight even starts, and prayer in the early morning is where God places those seeds in your spirit. People often say they are waiting for God to open doors, but the truth is, God is often waiting for them to receive the instructions that will lead them to those doors. These instructions are rarely dramatic. They may come as a simple nudge, a quiet idea, a sudden piece about a decision you have been delaying. The early hours carry these divine downloads because your heart is more tender, your spirit more alert, and your mind less distracted. You are not yet in the rush of performance, so you are able to hear the quiet strategies that will make the rest of your day, and even your life, more fruitful. The discipline to seek God before the sun rises is also a declaration of trust. It is telling Him, before I face people, I face you. Before I listen to the voices of the world, I listen to you. Before I make my plans, I receive yours. And when you consistently live this way, you find that the world begins to respond to the presence you carry. People may not understand why doors open for you, why favor follows you, why you seem to be in the right place at the right time. What they don't see is the hours before sunrise, where you aligned yourself with the one who orders your steps. The early hours are not just a time slot. They are a realm of preparation. What you do in them sets the tone for everything that follows. If you fill them with divine conversation, you will walk through the day with divine confidence. If you fill them with gratitude, you will walk through the day with joy that cannot be stolen. If you fill them with faith declarations, you will walk through the day seeing doors that others overlook. Prayer before sunrise is not about changing God. It is about changing you into the person who is ready for what God has already prepared. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in history were born in the hidden hours of the morning. Victories that looked sudden to the world were the result of years, even decades of private preparation. When you pray before sunrise, you are building in private what God will reveal in public. You are fortifying your spirit for opportunities that may not yet be visible. You are laying bricks for a future you cannot fully see, but God can. And the beauty of it is, you don't have to know every detail, because the one who does will guide you step by step. It is also in these moments that your heart is recalibrated. The burdens of yesterday are laid down, the worries about tomorrow are silenced, and you are reminded that today is a gift. When you start your day with this awareness, your perspective shifts. You stop chasing what is not meant for you. You stop forcing what God has not endorsed. You stop worrying about doors that close, because you know the one who holds the keys. And when you carry that kind of peace into your day, it becomes magnetic. It draws opportunities to you. It draws people to you. It draws solutions to you. What many fail to realize is that the early hours are also a battleground. While you sleep, the enemy strategizes too. He looks for ways to plant fear, doubt, and discouragement in your mind before you even step out of bed. But when you rise before sunrise to pray, you cut off those seeds before they take root. You fill your mind with truth before lies can enter. You set your heart on victory before defeat has a chance to whisper. You enter the day already ahead, already armed, already covered. This is why the early hours are so powerful. They are not just about getting ahead of the world, they are about getting ahead of the enemy. And so, those who understand this mystery guard those moments like treasure. They don't trade them for an extra hour of sleep that does not add value to their destiny. They don't waste them scrolling through news that brings no life. They don't rush through them as if they were just a ritual to tick off a list. They come to God with expectation, knowing that every word, every silence, every breath in those moments is shaping a reality they will walk into later. It is the secret place where doors begin to turn on their hinges, where opportunities begin to move into position, where the unseen hand of God begins to set the stage for divine encounters. Opportunities in life are not always about being in the right place. They are about being in the right time. You can be standing in front of the right door, but if you arrive too early, it will still be closed. If you arrive too late, it may already have been given to someone else. Timing is not just a detail in God's plan. It is the very rhythm by which His plan unfolds. And prayer before sunrise is one of the most powerful ways to align yourself with that divine rhythm. In those early hours, you are not merely speaking to God. You are synchronizing your steps with His. You are bringing your human schedule into agreement with His eternal schedule. And when that alignment happens, doors do not just open. You find yourself walking through them exactly when you should. There are people who miss their moments, not because they lack talent, intelligence, or even desire, but because they are out of sync with the timing of heaven. They rush ahead and try to force what God has not yet released, or they delay and watch opportunities slip through their fingers. This is why meeting God in the morning is so critical. It's not just about starting the day right. It's about making sure you start the day in step with Him. When you are aligned with God's timing, you begin to experience a flow that cannot be explained by human effort alone. Favor finds you without chasing it. The right people cross your path without you orchestrating it. The right resources arrive without you exhausting yourself trying to pull them in. When you rise before the sun and offer your day to God, you are essentially handing Him your calendar and saying, "You order my steps, you schedule my moments, you decide my pace." This act of surrender shifts everything. You no longer waste time on assignments that are not yours. You no longer exhaust yourself trying to pry open doors that were never meant for you. You no longer run in circles, mistaking movement for progress. Instead, you move in precision. You arrive at divine appointments exactly when they are meant to happen, and you avoid the traps that come from being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Think of how the tides of the ocean move in perfect harmony with the moon. They do not resist the pull, they flow with it. Your life is meant to move with the same kind of grace in response to God's timing. But for that to happen, you have to start each day by tuning your spirit to His frequency. And the quiet before sunrise is the clearest channel you will ever have. The noise of the day can distort your hearing, but in those still hours you can sense the nudges, the impressions, the peace or discomfort that lets you know whether you are moving in the right direction. There is also something profoundly humbling about meeting God before the demands of the day begin. It is as if you are saying, before I take a step, I want to make sure my foot is landing where you have prepared the ground. This posture protects you from unnecessary battles. So many of the struggles people face are not because the enemy is stronger, but because they stepped into something at the wrong time. An opportunity out of God's timing can be as dangerous as a wrong opportunity altogether. It can drain your energy, frustrate your faith, and make you question whether you heard God at all. But when you are aligned with His timing, even challenges become stepping stones because you encounter them with the grace that was scheduled for that exact moment. The scripture says, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord." Notice it says steps, not leaps or sprints. God orders your movements with precision, not in chaotic bursts. And morning prayer is where He reveals the next step. He may not give you the whole map, but He will show you the next move. And when you take it, the next one will appear. This is why people who walk in divine alignment often seem to avoid unnecessary detours. They are not guessing their way through life. They are receiving instructions daily. Being aligned with God's timing also means being at peace with His pace. Sometimes God's answer to your prayer is not no, but not yet. And if you don't meet Him in the morning to be reminded of this, impatience will tempt you to push open doors that are locked for your protection. The early hours are when God strengthens your trust, when He whispers, "Wait, I am still preparing this for you," or "Move now, the way is clear." If you learn to trust those whispers, you will save yourself from years of unnecessary struggle. Alignment is not only about where you are, it's about what is happening in the unseen while you are there. When you are in sync with God, He is working in the background to position people, arrange circumstances, and align resources that you will meet in the future. Prayer before sunrise allows you to step into your day with confidence that even what you cannot see is being handled. You stop living in reaction to life and start living in cooperation with heaven. You are no longer chasing blessings. Blessings are walking toward you on the same schedule God put in place before the day began. The world teaches that success comes from hustle, constant motion, and being the first to act. But in the kingdom of God, success comes from alignment. Moving when He moves, stopping when He stops, speaking when He says speak, and being silent when He says wait. This kind of precision cannot be developed in the rush of the afternoon. It is cultivated in the stillness of the morning, when you are face to face with the One who holds time in His hands. Some doors will never open just because you knock harder. They will open only when you arrive at the exact moment they were designed to open. And if you spend your mornings aligning with God, you will find yourself walking up to those doors at just the right time. Not a second too early, not a moment too late. This is why people who live in alignment seem to be in the right place at the right time over and over again. It is not luck. It is the fruit of starting each day in sync with God's timing. When you live this way, you also stop comparing your journey to others. You understand that your clock is not their clock. You no longer feel behind because you know you are moving at the exact speed heaven intends for you. And you no longer feel pressure to rush ahead because you trust that what is meant for you cannot be taken by anyone else if you are in God's timing. This level of peace frees you from striving, and that freedom makes you more effective in every area of life. There is something powerful about waking before the light and inviting the Creator of time to direct your time. It is more than a discipline. It is a declaration that you are not the master of your own schedule, that you would rather be late by man's standard than early by your own and miss God's plan. And when you consistently meet Him in the morning, you will find that you are never late for the appointments that matter most. Heaven keeps time differently, and those who align with it will always see doors open exactly when they should. There are doors in life that are not made of wood or steel, doors you cannot see with your natural eyes, yet they determine the course of your future. These are spiritual doors, gateways in the unseen realm that grant you access to opportunities, relationships, resources, and levels of influence you could never reach in your own strength. Some of these doors remain shut not because God does not want you to walk through them, but because they require a specific key. That key is not money, education, or connections. It is prayer. And not just any prayer, but the kind of focused, faith-filled conversation with God that happens before the day begins, when the spiritual atmosphere is most sensitive and the distractions of the world have not yet clouded your hearing. When you pray before sunrise, you are stepping into the realm where decisions are made before they manifest on earth. You are positioning yourself at the control room of heaven, where assignments are released, instructions are given, and barriers are removed. The Bible says, "Whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." This is not a poetic phrase, it is a divine legal principle. In those early hours, when your heart is fully surrendered and your spirit is fully awake, you have the authority to bind what needs to be stopped and to release what needs to be allowed into your life. That is why morning prayer is not a casual ritual, it is an unlocking. It is using the spiritual authority you have been given to open what has been shut and to step into what has been prepared for you. The most dangerous doors are not the ones that are visibly closed, but the ones you do not even know exist. They are hidden from the natural mind, and yet they are the very passageways to your destiny. Without prayer, you could walk past them every day, unaware of the treasure on the other side. But in those moments before the sun rises, the Holy Spirit can reveal them to you. Sometimes He will give you a picture in your heart, a conviction in your spirit, or a dream that lingers in your memory when you wake. At other times, He will drop a thought so unexpectedly into your mind that you cannot explain where it came from. Yet that thought will lead you directly to the place where the door is waiting. It is also important to understand that spiritual doors are guarded. Just as there are angels assigned to open them, there are forces that try to keep them locked. This is why prayer before sunrise is strategic. You are not only asking for doors to be opened, you are engaging in spiritual warfare to remove every hindrance standing in the way. You are addressing unseen resistance before it even has a chance to manifest. There are seasons where you may feel a heavy resistance in life without knowing why. Relationships feel strained, opportunities seem delayed, progress feels hindered. In those times, early morning prayer becomes the tool by which you confront those invisible barriers and declare your God-given right to advance. When you begin to see prayer as a key, you no longer approach it as a duty. You understand that without it, certain areas of your life will remain locked no matter how much you try in your own strength. Think of a locked door in the natural world. You can push, pull, or even break it down, but without the proper key, you risk damaging both the door and yourself. Prayer, especially before sunrise, is that proper key. It opens with precision. It grants you access without unnecessary struggle. It gets you into rooms you could not enter by any other means. And it does so without leaving you exhausted or wounded from trying to force your way in. One of the greatest deceptions is believing that just because God has promised something, it will automatically come to you without resistance. The truth is, even promises have doors, and those doors must be unlocked through prayer. The Israelites were promised the promised land, but they still had to march, shout, and take possession of it. In the same way, God may have shown you a vision of your future, but if you never rise to pray, you may never see the path to it. Morning prayer is where you receive both the map and the authority to walk through the entrance. There is also a profound link between early prayer and divine favor. Favor is not random. It is often the result of unseen preparation. When you pray before sunrise, you are preparing the way for favor to meet you in the day ahead. You are speaking into the atmosphere, shaping the tone of meetings you have not yet attended, softening the hearts of people you have not yet met, and arranging circumstances that will greet you hours later. What others call coincidence is often the result of doors you unlocked in prayer long before you arrived. The enemy understands the power of these moments, which is why he tries to keep believers asleep, distracted, or spiritually dull in the early hours. He knows that a believer who rises before the sun with a clear mind and a focused spirit is dangerous to his plans. Every time you pray in those hours, you weaken his grip on what belongs to you. You dismantle his strategies before they can take shape. You remove his influence from places where you will walk later in the day. This is why consistency matters. A single act of prayer is powerful, but a lifestyle of pre-sunrise prayer makes you unstoppable because you are constantly unlocking and securing ground in the Spirit. It is also in these early prayers that God often gives you the courage to walk through the doors you have unlocked. Sometimes the door is open, but fear or uncertainty keeps you from stepping through. Morning prayer doesn't just open the way, it strengthens you to take it. It fills you with the assurance that if God has unlocked it, He will also sustain you in it. Without this confidence, many people hesitate at the threshold of their breakthrough, turning back because they feel unprepared. But when you have been with God before the sun rises, you walk into the day with a sense of divine backing. You know you are not stepping into an empty room, you are stepping into a place already prepared for you. Over time, you will begin to notice a pattern. The more intentional you are about praying before sunrise, the more doors seem to open in your life. Opportunities that once seemed distant will come closer. Paths that were blocked will suddenly clear. People who once resisted you will become allies. And it will not be because you manipulated or begged for it. It will be because you held the key and used it at the right time. Prayer is not just about asking God for blessings. It is about alignment, authority, and access. The early hours carry unique weight in the spiritual realm. And those who master the discipline of using them will find themselves living in a constant flow of open doors. These are not just the doors of career, finances, or relationships. They are doors of wisdom, peace, creativity, and divine encounters. They are the entry points to a life where you are not struggling to find your way, but walking confidently in the way that has been opened before you. When you understand this, you no longer see pre-sunrise prayer as an option. You see it as a necessity. You realize that there are things God has prepared for you that are too valuable to be left behind simply because you didn't take the time to unlock them. And so, you rise while it is still dark. You enter into His presence, and you take hold of the keys He has given you. Then, when the sun rises, you step into the day, knowing that doors will not just open, they will open for you. What you speak in the unseen hours before sunrise has the power to shape what you will see once the day unfolds. Words are not just sounds, they are seeds. Every sentence you speak in faith is planted into the soil of time, and like all seeds, they produce after their kind. This is why those early moments before the light comes are so critical, because the ground of your day is still untouched, untrampled, and ready to receive what you put into it. If you fill those moments with doubt, fear, and complaints, you are planting weeds that will choke your joy and hinder your progress. But if you fill them with declarations of life, promises from Scripture, and affirmations of faith, you are sowing a harvest that will greet you as the day progresses. Before sunrise, you have a rare advantage. The canvas of your day is blank. The paintbrush is in your hand, and your words are the colors. You can paint frustration or expectation, scarcity or abundance, defeat or victory. The choice is yours, and the consequences are certain. This is why it is dangerous to start the day without speaking life over it. Silence in those moments is not neutral. It leaves your day vulnerable to be painted by the voices and events around you. But when you begin the morning by declaring God's truth, you set the tone before anything else has a chance to do so. Your words in those early hours have such impact because they come from a place of clarity. Before the phone starts ringing, before the news headlines start scrolling, before the opinions of people start pressing into your thoughts, your mind is still fresh, your spirit is still quiet, and your heart is more open to believe what you say. This is the perfect time to speak the promises of God out loud, not just to remind yourself, but to release them into the atmosphere. Scripture says that life and death are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Morning declarations are you choosing the fruit you will eat later. Think of a farmer who rises early to plant his field before the heat of the day. He does not wait until noon, because by then the ground is harder, the sun is stronger, and the work is more difficult. In the same way, you plant your words before sunrise, because the soil of your spirit and your day is softer and more receptive. It is easier to believe in victory before you have faced a challenge than to try to build faith in the middle of one. When you set your direction before the day starts, you enter your challenges already positioned for the outcome you declared. Words spoken in the early morning also carry spiritual weight because they echo in both realms, the natural and the supernatural. Angels respond to God's word, and when you speak it in faith, you activate assignments in the unseen. You may not realize it, but when you declare, "Today I walk in favor and wisdom," messengers of heaven are already moving to align circumstances and people with those words. Conversely, when you speak fear and defeat, you are giving voice to the enemy's agenda, and he will work to make those words your reality. This is why discipline over your speech is vital, especially in the first moments of the day. You must understand that what you speak before sunrise is not reaction, it is creation. Too many people spend their day reacting to whatever comes, instead of creating the atmosphere and direction beforehand. Creation begins in the invisible. God spoke light into existence before it appeared. In the same way, your declarations set things in motion that may not be visible immediately but will manifest in time. Some breakthroughs are delayed because they have never been declared. Some victories are won before the battle because they were spoken into being long before the fight began. This is also the time to address the mountains in your life. Jesus did not say to talk to God about the mountain. He said to speak to the mountain itself and command it to move. Before sunrise, speak to obstacles as if they are already defeated. Speak to lack as if provision has already arrived. Speak to sickness as if health is already yours. Your words are not wishful thinking. They are spiritual legislation. They are you exercising the authority given to you as a child of God to enforce His will in your life. But declarations are not only about removing obstacles, they are about calling in blessings. You can call joy into your day. You can call peace into your home. You can call favor into your interactions. You can call clarity into your decisions. You can call strength into your body. Prayer and declaration before sunrise are about shaping your day in advance, creating a divine momentum that makes it harder for negativity to take hold once the sun is up. It is important to remember that consistency is what transforms this practice from occasional encouragement to a lifestyle of power. One morning of speaking life will make a difference, but a lifetime of it will completely transform the way you experience the world. When you do this daily, you will start to see a pattern. Your mood shifts, your decisions improve, your relationships change, and opportunities appear. This is not coincidence. It is the harvest of seeds you have been planting every morning. Over time, you will also notice that your declarations begin to change you. At first, you might speak them as a discipline, simply because you know it is the right thing to do. But as days pass, your heart begins to catch up to your words. You start to believe them more deeply. Your faith strengthens. Your confidence grows. You stop just reciting promises and start living as if they are already fulfilled. This alignment between your words and your belief makes them even more powerful, because now you are speaking from a place of conviction, not just habit. There is a reason why so many people who walk in unusual favor have a strong habit of early morning declarations. They understand that the world responds to the words you send into it. Just as sound waves move invisibly through the air and eventually hit their target, your words move through the spiritual atmosphere until they produce a result. You may not know when or how they will return to you, but you can be certain they will. When you start shaping your day with your words before the sun rises, you take control of the narrative before anyone else can write it for you. You are not waiting for circumstances to tell you how the day will go. You are telling the day what it will be. And when you walk out into a world that is already responding to what you declared in faith, you find yourself encountering more open doors, more favor, and more peace than you ever did when you left those moments unused. Over time, this practice will become your first act of warfare, your first act of faith, and your first act of creation every single day. You will not just wake up to see what the day has to offer. You will wake up to decide what the day will be. And when you live like that, sunrise stops being just the start of another day. It becomes the unveiling of what you and God already set in motion in the stillness before the light came. There is a kind of hearing that only happens in the quiet. It is not the hearing of your physical ears, but of your spirit, the deep inner knowing that comes when all the noise has been silenced. Before sunrise, the world has not yet begun its constant shouting. The voices of worry, responsibility, and distraction are still asleep. In that sacred stillness, your prayers rise differently, your thoughts settle more quickly, and your ability to hear God is sharper than at any other time of day. Heaven listens at all hours, but there is something about the early morning that seems to draw a different level of intimacy from God's heart. It is as if the quiet itself becomes an offering, a sign that you have chosen Him before anything else, and that choice seems to draw His presence nearer. When you come to God in those still hours, you are not competing with the demands of the day. You are not shouting over the noise of your own exhaustion or frustration. Your mind has not yet been flooded by the conversations and concerns of people. In that state, you are like a calm lake that can reflect the sky clearly. God's voice is often described as a whisper, not because He wants to make it difficult to hear, but because He wants you close. And closeness requires stillness. The early morning quiet is an invitation to come close enough to catch the subtleties of His leading, the gentle promptings, the reminders, the corrections, and the encouragement that might be drowned out in the rush of later hours. This is why so many who have walked closely with God speak of the treasures they have found in the early hours. It is not that God changes who He is after sunrise. It is that you change. You are more open, more receptive, more humble, and more aware in those first moments of the day. In that posture, you are able to receive not just answers to your prayers, but also the wisdom you didn't know you needed. the direction you didn't know to ask for, and the peace that settles you before you even face a problem. The quiet of the morning becomes a kind of spiritual sanctuary, a meeting place where you and God commune without interruption. It is in this silence that He often speaks to you about things you didn't think to bring up. He reminds you of people you need to forgive, ideas you need to pursue, and dangers you need to avoid. He corrects your perspective before it gets skewed by the day's challenges. He aligns your priorities so that you don't waste energy on what does not matter. This is the hidden value of hearing Him in the quiet. You are not just getting your requests answered, you are getting your life ordered before it even begins to unfold. When you pray in the stillness before sunrise, you will also notice that God has a way of highlighting His word in a different way. Scriptures you have read many times suddenly seem alive, as if they were written for that exact moment. Phrases leap off the page into your spirit, not just as information, but as living truth meant to guide you. The lack of noise allows you to meditate without rushing, to sit with a verse until it shapes your heart, instead of just passing through your mind. This is hearing differently. Not just hearing sounds, but absorbing truth in a way that transforms you. The early morning quiet also trains you to value the small, gentle impressions of the Spirit. In the business of life, we often look for God in big, dramatic signs, but in the quiet, you begin to recognize that His guidance often comes as a nudge, a subtle shift of thought, a calm sense of yes or no. When you practice responding to these impressions in the stillness, you become more attuned to them in the noise of the day. What you hear in the quiet becomes your compass in the chaos. It is also in these moments that you realize hearing God is not just about instruction. It is about presence. Sometimes He may not give you a specific direction or answer in that moment, but He will fill you with an awareness that He is with you. That awareness becomes your anchor when the day tries to pull you into worry or discouragement. The quiet teaches you to recognize His nearness, to be satisfied in simply being with Him, and to trust that even when He is silent, He is working. You must understand that hearing God in the quiet is not just a gift, it is a discipline. It requires you to set aside the temptation to fill every moment with activity, noise, or even your own words. Sometimes the most powerful prayer you can pray in those hours is not a long list of requests, but a few words followed by stillness. Waiting in His presence without rushing creates space for Him to speak in ways you might otherwise miss. It teaches you that prayer is a dialogue, not a monologue. The more you practice this, the more you will notice how different your day feels. When you start the morning with this kind of deep connection, you carry a settled spirit into situations that would normally unsettle you. You make decisions more confidently because they are rooted in the clarity you received before the world started pulling at you. You are less reactive, less anxious, and more focused. This is the fruit of having heard God in the quiet. You are not guessing your way through the day. You are walking in the light of what you have already been shown. The enemy knows the value of this, which is why he works hard to keep you from it. He will try to fill your mornings with distractions, urgent tasks, or the simple lure of staying in bed. He knows that if he can keep you from the quiet, he can keep you from the clarity and strength that comes from it. This is why you must guard those moments as sacred, treating them not as optional but as essential to your spiritual life. They are not wasted time. They are invested time, producing returns in every area of your life. And while God can and does speak in any setting, there is something undeniably precious about the way He meets you in the early morning stillness. It is a kind of conversation that feels personal, as if it is meant only for you. It is the reassurance that before the day began, before you faced a single challenge, heaven already acknowledged you, equipped you, and surrounded you. It is the reminder that you do not walk into the day to find God. He walks into the day with you, because you first met Him in the quiet. Over time, you will come to crave this silence, not because it is empty, but because it is full of His presence, His wisdom, His peace. You will realize that some of the greatest breakthroughs in your life were not birthed in moments of noise and excitement, but in the stillness before the sun came up, when God listened differently and you heard more clearly than at any other time. And when you live from that place, you will find that no matter how loud the day becomes, you will always have the memory and strength of the quiet to guide you through. A day that begins in the presence of God carries a momentum that cannot be manufactured by human effort or willpower. This momentum is not simply a feeling or a fleeting motivation. It is a divine flow, a supernatural current that moves through your circumstances and opens doors before you even arrive. When you pray before sunrise, you are inviting God's power to run ahead of you, preparing the way, softening hearts, and aligning situations in your favor. This momentum is like a river that sweeps away obstacles and carries you swiftly toward your destiny, not because you push harder, but because you are riding the wave of divine favor and purpose. Starting your day with God is a declaration that you are not relying on your own strength or understanding. It is an acknowledgement that your success, your breakthroughs, and your provision come from Him. This humility positions you to receive His grace, which is the enabling power that turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results. When you carry His presence from the first light of dawn, you find that the challenges you expected to face become opportunities to demonstrate His power. Doors that once seemed firmly shut begin to open, not through your striving, but through His intervention. Momentum begins in the invisible realm. Before you physically step into your day, your battles are fought and won in the Spirit. Your prayers at dawn are a strategic move in this unseen warfare. They establish your authority, release angelic assistance, and remove spiritual barriers that would otherwise block your progress. This is why so many who live disciplined morning prayer lives report experiencing breakthroughs that seem sudden to others, but were long in preparation. They stepped into their day carrying momentum that was built in the secret place, making every move easier and every door more accessible. The fragrance of God's presence that you carry from those early prayers is powerful. It is a scent that draws favor, opens conversations, and invites blessings. People are naturally attracted to those who walk in that kind of momentum, even if they cannot explain why. When you are infused with His presence, you speak with wisdom beyond your years, you make decisions with clarity, and you engage with others with a grace that wins hearts. This momentum is not just about external doors opening. It is about the internal transformation that equips you to walk through those doors confidently and effectively. One of the greatest testimonies of momentum is how it changes the nature of obstacles. Problems that once caused you to stumble become stepping stones. Delays that frustrated you turn into divine appointments. Challenges that threatened to overwhelm you become opportunities for God to show His power. This is because the momentum you carry is not dependent on circumstances, but on the unchanging presence of God. When you start your day with Him, you carry a spiritual advantage that shifts the atmosphere around you. It is also important to recognize that momentum is sustained by consistency. One morning of prayer before sunrise can bring a breakthrough, but when it becomes a lifestyle, it creates a flow that carries you beyond temporary victories into lasting success. Consistent connection with God in the early hours trains your spirit to recognize His voice, to follow His leading quickly, and to walk confidently in His will. It forms habits of faith that become your default mode, making you less susceptible to doubt, discouragement, and distraction. This momentum affects every area of your life. In your career, it can mean unexpected promotions, successful negotiations, or creative breakthroughs. In your relationships, it can mean reconciliation, deeper understanding, and divine connections. In your health, it can mean healing and strength. In your finances, it can mean provision and increase. The list goes on, but the principle remains the same. When you carry the momentum of God's presence, doors open in every area where He has called you to prosper. The power of starting your day with God is not about following a formula. It is about cultivating a relationship. It is about learning to live in the flow of His Spirit, trusting that He will lead you to the right doors at the right time. It is about surrendering your agenda and embracing His purpose. And when you do this, you find that the day unfolds with a kind of effortless grace. Not because everything is easy, but because you are not facing it alone. Momentum also creates opportunities that you could never have planned or predicted. When God moves ahead of you, He prepares the ground for encounters, ideas and blessings that exceed your imagination. Doors open that you did not even know existed. Paths become clear where before there was confusion. Resources come together in ways that defy logic. This supernatural flow is a gift, but it is one that must be invited through intentional prayer and devotion in the quiet hours before the sun rises. Remember, momentum is not about rushing or forcing things to happen faster. It is about moving in sync with God's timing and power. It is about allowing Him to direct your steps and energize your efforts. When you start your day in prayer, you position yourself to move with the current of heaven rather than against it. This alignment brings ease to your journey and makes even difficult tasks manageable. As you cultivate this habit, you will find that your faith grows. You will begin to expect God to move on your behalf. You will start to see His fingerprints on your life in the form of open doors and answered prayers. This confidence will inspire you to continue meeting Him in the early morning hours, knowing that each prayer is a seed planted in fertile ground. The key to experiencing this momentum is consistency and faithfulness. Don't let the temptation to sleep in or delay your time with God rob you of the breakthroughs waiting for you. Rise before the world stirs. Enter into His presence with expectation and gratitude. Speak your prayers with faith. And watch as God begins to open doors. Doors that lead to your destiny, your purpose, and the abundant life He has prepared for you. As you stand on the threshold of a new day, remember this. The moments before sunrise are not merely the quiet hours of the morning. They are the sacred moments where heaven and earth meet, where the divine agenda is released, and where your destiny is set in motion. To pray before the sun rises is to step into alignment with God's perfect timing, to unlock doors that no man can shut, and to carry a momentum that propels you beyond every limitation. It is a declaration that your life is not ruled by circumstance or chance, but by the sovereign hand of the Creator who holds all things together. Do not underestimate the power of these early hours. In them lies the secret to breakthrough, favor, and divine guidance. When you make it your daily habit to rise and pray, you are not only opening doors, you are stepping into the fullness of God's purpose for your life. You are walking in a destiny designed by divine wisdom, ordered by heavenly timing, and guaranteed by unshakable faith. So rise with expectation, speak with authority, listen with humility, and walk boldly into the day, knowing that the doors God has opened before you will never close. Your breakthrough is not a matter of if, but when, and it begins the moment you choose to pray before sunrise. This is your time. This is your moment. Embrace it with all your heart, and watch how God moves mightily on your behalf.